Welcome to the Future of Productivity for Government Infoblast. These Infoblasts are a series of short videos that share high-level overviews of Microsoft's latest products that drive increased productivity by both the IT staff and end users in government organizations. In this session, we're concentrating on enabling secured teleworking using the new Direct Access feature available with Windows 7 Enterprise Edition along with Windows Server 2008 R2. I'm your host, Phil West. Let's get started. So in today's world, we have a teleworking challenge. Our staff needs to extend the agency network and have it done in a secured fashion so that our remote workers have access to the resources that they need while they're traveling and out of the office. Users want to do this in the easiest, most flexible way possible, and our IT staff wants to do this in the most secured and convenient way possible so that we're able to manage and maintain the infrastructure. Today, we typically do this via a VPN, a virtual private network connection. And that is done by maintaining VPN hardware, VPN software, potentially client issues, licensing. There's a number of challenges that we have today in making this seamless and flexible to the users as well as efficient on the IT staff. Microsoft is seeking to help alleviate this challenge by using a new feature that's part of Windows 7 and Windows Server 2008 R2. That feature is called Direct Access. This allows for your agency network boundary to be extended across the internet. It allows for those remote PC users to have a virtually transparent access to agency resources across a secure connection. And that secure connection also allows for IT and administrative staff to have visibility into those remote devices and ensuring that those remote devices meet the security compliance and specifications that are necessary inside of your agency. Let's see how this happens. First, the remote hardware client has an indicator that determines whether or not they are located on the agency network or whether they're somewhere on the internet. This is done by trying to contact a predetermined network location server. That server should exist inside of your agency network, so if that server is not available, then the client hardware determines that they are not on the agency network. Therefore, the client hardware itself, the computer, makes a computer tunnel, a hardware tunnel. And this is done using the established IPsec specification for secured communications across the internet. This is a hardware tunnel which allows the computer itself to communicate with the Direct Access server. And in this case, the Direct Access server is the device that is actually running Windows Server 2008 R2. In fact, it's the only server that is required to have Windows Server 2008 R2 edition installed. After the computer tunnel is established, we now have access to the Active Directory group policy information, as well as network access protection, software update queues that have established for specific software that might be set up on the machine, a Windows update or maybe custom software. This is all done well before the user even has access or even logs into the computer. This allows for any client computer that is actually connected to the internet to be managed and controlled and be visible by the IT staff even when a user is not logged in. Now the user comes along, logs into the machine, and wants to establish a user connection. So a separate tunnel is established that is using not only the client certificate, the hardware certificate that's on the machine, but also the client credential, the user credentials, username and password, for example, to access the corporate resources. Again, a separate tunnel is created for user access. The authentication is done, and now the user would have access just as if they were plugged in inside the agency network, wired or wirelessly. They would have access to corporate resources based upon their Active Directory group assignments. This allows for actions to be controlled, maintained, and monitored in a seamless fashion. Nothing special has to be created for direct access users versus other users. In fact, direct access users are the same username and credentials that are used inside the corporate network. You see here that we actually have access to not only IP version 4 devices inside the agency, but also IP version 6 devices. We're actually using IP version 6 in direct access as the mechanism for creating the IPsec tunnels. These tunnels are actually envelopes for the data packets to be placed in and encrypted so that they cannot be viewed except by the authorized direct access server. But because the internet doesn't support IP version 6 directly, we actually create an outside envelope using IP version 4 so that it can traverse normal internet connections, such as your home cable modem, your coffee Wi-Fi hotspot, or maybe even access from the airport or on an airplane. This allows for corporate resources to be available based upon the credential setup that you have as what's required for having that user tunnel. There are really 4 main reasons why direct access is really beneficial to government agencies. Number 1 is the decreased cost associated with having that separate VPN hardware infrastructure, having to maintain that, versus having it integrated into the client and integrated into a server offering that is probably already in the data center network. You have an enhancement to your productivity of the users because now they have transparent access to government resources without having a cumbersome VPN client to deal with, as well as the fact that your IT administrative staff can now see and maintain those remote resources just as if they were plugged into the network and can establish the same policies and have the same control over those devices. And finally, you're doing all this while you're maintaining security because you're using IPsec as the encryption mechanism for all the communications between your agency boundary, which would be the direct access server gateway, and all of the clients that are somewhere out on the internet. I hope this has been beneficial to you. If you have any more questions or need additional information about Windows 7 or direct access, please take a look at these URLs on this page, as well as a whole list of demos that we have video capability for on our Windows 7 video demo site. Take a look at those. And again, I want to thank you for your time today in listening to our direct access information. And again, thank you for using Microsoft.